Welcome to A Call to Healing. Today's guest is Eva Payne, a mother of six who turned her own journey through divorce and depression into Flow Life retreats, where she facilitates psilocybin-assisted healing, breathwork, and transformation. After exhausting conventional options, Eva discovered plant medicine as the key to embodied healing, not just intellectual understanding. A Call to Healing is sponsored by Cenevita, a platform helping practitioners spend more time in service and less time in the back office. Let's get into it. Welcome, Eva Payne, to A Call to Healing. Thanks for being here.
Melanie, thank you so much for having me. I am super excited to have a conversation with you.
So, Eva Payne, you're a friend of mine already, and I've supported a couple of your retreats, so I'm super excited to talk about what you do now. But I would love to get out of you kind of your who are you, where are you from, and kind of like your healing journey up until you started doing what you do now.
Well, I came here as a very inquisitive child. Here, meaning Earth, meaning that this body, this incarnation, this whatever. Um, I did not grow up in a very religious home at all. My mom was always like, believe whatever you want. And I can remember being 6, 7 years old on the swings and thinking to myself, I'm a human. Like, have a conscious, I mean, I didn't know the word consciousness, but I have a consciousness that is looking through these eyes, that is experiencing this life like, I've got a body. What is this thing? So always, I mean, it was like ingrained in me to be inquisitive around who are we? What are we doing here? And how do we do it better? And that's really the bulk of what I've done for the last 49 years of my life is trying to answer that question. I have sat in and with various religions in my life where I believed it so wholeheartedly. And I think there's a lot of value in those experiences. I'm a mom to six kids. I live in the suburbs of LA. I ran a nonprofit for 20 plus years for kiddos impacted by HIV and AIDS. So I've always been service oriented as well. That's just a big piece of who I am. And I got divorced at 37, and that sent me into this whole last 10 years of my life. Really, as hard as that was, it was an opportunity for growth, an opportunity to really step outside the religion that I had spent 16 years in, to dive deeper and going back to my 5, 6, 7-year-old self, wondering who are we and what are we doing here? And that's really where I've spent the last 10 years is just nothing's um, nothing's off the table. I listen to it all. I listen to lots and lots of ideas, and I'm looking for common denominators. I'm looking for threads. I'm looking for um, an answer that feels, and maybe there isn't an answer, but my little soul is like, no, no, keep looking. You're so close. You're so close. You're almost there. You've almost figured something out. And so, if anything, spending my life pondering and wondering and exploring has been beautiful. And it's a life well lived.
Yeah, amazing. I imagine with six kids, that's a lot of life like to live. I see your posts and stuff, and you're very engaged, and they're all what in their late teens and 20s now?
Yeah, yeah, the twins. I've got one girl, five boys. The twins are 14, and Emmy, my oldest, the only girl, she's 25, 25. Yeah, yeah, and they're all really great humans. I mean, I don't know if they just came here that way, and it's like I just stayed out of the way enough. I didn't mess them up too much. I think at the end of the day, if we just let our kids show us who they are, really look for their gifts, look for the things inside of them that light them up, and then nurture that. I think parenting isn't as hard as we think it is. And especially if we don't try to squish them into a box that says you need to get all A's and you need to be good at everything that this education systems, whatever that even is, says you need to be good at. We just let them be. Then they all turn out. So far so good. So far they're all intact and doing well.
Yeah, sounds like you were a very wise little soul because the awareness of awareness is pretty advanced. A lot of people don't even experience that until they're much older, that there is a watcher of the thoughts. that they aren't the thoughts? Were you different than other kids? How was that relating
Was
to other
I
kids?
different than other kids? I mean, I think I definitely fell into all the same stuff. I had a Cabbage Patch Kid growing up. I loved putting on plays and shows and exploring in the yard and building forts and swinging on swings. And yeah, I don't think I was even like the nicest of kids. I grew up with a lot of brothers, and we would always like make fun of each other. And so I probably wasn't even like the nicest. I was probably one of the mean girls, in like junior high. Like when I think about some of the ways I was, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. But I definitely had this spiritual side. Remember when bookstores used to be inside the mall? I would go into those bookstores and I would just sit and spend hours, half in like the religious section, like wanting to read all the books, and then half in like the metaphysics, palm reading, tarot cards, astrology, equally interested. I'd walk into the Christian bookstore that would be in there and be so excited about learning all about that. So there's all ghosts, spirits. I wanted to be a ghost hunter when I was younger. Like what, I've always like anything George Norrie, coast to coast, that AM radio, and I could turn that on at night and listen to all of that. So just super interested and fascinated with the spiritual, the mystical, the religion side of it. So maybe different in that way, but I think a lot of my friends too could hold that space with me, so in a lot of ways I was a very typical kid, and then maybe just in some ways always super curious around all of that. Yeah.
At what point, I know you said the divorce was a hard time. At what point do you feel like you kind of, I mean, it sounds like you've been on a spiritual path for a long time, but maybe started a healing path or you were more aware of like life could be better or I don't know.
Yeah, different. So I'd say that really kind of early on. So my kiddo's dad struggled with addiction. And I knew that one of us had to get it together, like quickly, right? Like we've got 6 kids, and they were little at the time. The twins were 4. I think Emmy was 14, 15 years old. And so I knew that his journey was going to be probably more challenging than mine. I wasn't struggling with addiction. I mean, maybe sugar and, the phone or something. Like we all have addictions, but not in the same way that it really had a hold of his soul and his heart. And so I would sit in therapy and I'd say, I've lost my flow. Like I've lost my flow. So when I started the nonprofit at 21, it was just really prompting from intuition. I've always felt really connected to some promptings in my life. Like I'll get ideas and I have no problem following them. Like, why not? Why not bring that thing into the world? Why not write that book? Why not start that podcast? Why not start that nonprofit? Like, if it fails, it fails, but like, let's give it a go. And I just really felt like I'd lost that. When you're in, even if you're the one who chooses the divorce or the hard thing, going through it, like it's still tough. You had this whole vision for this life and what your life was going to be like. And I was going to church on every Sunday, and, we had the nice house, and everything looked good on the outside. It looked really pretty and perfect, but we did not have intimacy. He and I, we were best friends, but there was no intimacy. And that was a lot because of his addiction and a lot because of my inability to truly communicate and afraid of conflict, which is rooted in a lot of my childhood. There was a lot of sexual abuse in my childhood. My father was abusive to my mother. Um, just a lot of like stuff that I didn't even realize because it's just your everyday. You don't even really like see your childhood for what it was until maybe you're older and you have kids and you're like, okay, whoa, whoa, whoa. I knew about so much stuff as a 5, 6, 7 year old that my kids are not even exposed to. So, like, what happened to me? And so, sitting in this therapy and just going, like, I have no inspiration. I don't want to keep doing what I've been doing. I've been doing it for 20 years, but I got so lucky in running that nonprofit, all these synchronicities, all this, the right people, the experiences that I would have. And so I was sitting with that therapist, like, just tell me what to do. Like, how do I heal? Like, just give me the checklist. I'm surely there's just got to be some steps that we need to take as a human being to feel better again. Because I know what it feels like to feel good, and this is not it. And I went on antidepressants and anxiety because that's what they do. Like, here, try this. I'm like, okay. And I hated it. I hated it. It totally disconnected me from my emotions, from who I was, from feeling those highs and lows. It just kind of kept me neutral, which was, I guess, fine for a few months. But I thought, this cannot be it. This is not the solution for humans. So what is? Like, how do we heal? And having spent 16 years in a religion where, you pray, but you don't meditate. I don't know what breath work is. I don't know what sound healing is. I have no idea about cold plunging or all these modalities. Somatic work, what is that? So there were all these things that this therapist, like, well, there's no checklist. I'm like, okay, I'm going to go create one. Like, this is ridiculous. There's got to be a way. Everything in nature has rhyme and reason. Everything knows how to heal itself. What's wrong with us? Where's all the information? Why are we so skilled in math and science and whatever, but yet we don't know how to handle emotions? We don't know how to move through grief. We sit in shame and guilt and fear and anger and apathy, and we just, that's our baseline. Like, no, I just don't believe it. I don't believe that. And so I just started learning about anything and everything I possibly could. Any kind of healing modality. I was like, I'll go to that class. I'll go try that thing. I would tell people I feel like a college student without a major. I'm just out here just trying stuff. Just like, nothing's off the table. Let's give it a go. Let me see. And I just started keeping a list of all the things that I had tried. And there were certain ones that really helped me to come out of the muck, to be able to be neutral with Chad, when my ex-husband, when he would throw all the stuff my way, and I'd get the paragraphs and paragraphs of text messages about how horrible of a person I am and a bad mom and blah blah blah. And my rebound game got faster and faster and faster. So instead of being pulled into the tornado of chaos and being triggered, I could just stop and pause and breathe. I wouldn't react to those. I could be calm to the table. And so our divorce took like 4 years to really move through everything. But I was in no rush. I'm like, well, I just want to talk to someone who's sane. I want it to be fair. I just kept saying, let's just make it fair, 50-50, fair, 50-50. And we got to that point. We're kosher-y today. Everything's good. Co-parent pretty well. But what I found in that journey, and then I wrote some books about living in flow, and like, here's all the ideas. And my intuition was like crazy. I wrote 2 books in a matter of like a month. They just like poured out of me. But when I started coaching women around these ideas, they could not shift. They could not shift. Like, they knew it. They knew it. It's like sitting in therapy for years and years and years. It's all up here, but nothing is embodied. And I'm like, this is not it. What am I missing? What am I missing? But having been Mormon for 16 years and super PG before that, I never drank. I didn't do any kind of drugs or medicine or anything. Like, I didn't put anything into my body that I didn't think was just as clean as possibly could be, maybe except for like sugar again. Still have to work on that one. But that's when psychedelics, psilocybin, just kept popping up, kept popping up, kept popping up. And it was like such a big resistance for me. I spoke at DARE graduations in college. I was always like, I mean, I believed say no to drugs to my core, all the propaganda around it. And so it's really this journey of all these modalities, but like, really the kicker was psilocybin, really being able to understand that medicine and how that can help propel people into a space of embodied healing versus just wisdom healing. And my life shifted, from that point on. Once I was able to put down the propaganda and the fear that I had around it and start saying, okay, you have an open mind about all these other things. Why not this? I had some programming to get around. But once I said, okay, baby stepping my way into that, my whole life shifted. And that was really, out of this last 10 years, 11 years, that was maybe like 6 years ago is when I started to like really not be afraid to look into that space and that world.
What did that look like on like your first try with it? Did you go big? Did you microdose? Like what did you do?
Yeah, great question. I learned everything I could possibly learn because that was safe, right? How many class There weren't very many classes out there. Now there's a lot, but I took a course on psychedelics, learned about all of them. I listened to every podcast I could possibly find. I watched every movie. I listened to books, as many books as I could find. And then I was like, all right, universe, I've learned everything that I can learn, but where do you get drugs? Like, that's literally what I was saying. I'm like, where do I even go? Like, I'm not just going to buy something off some dude off the internet, that says it's this. And sure enough, as the universe, you just sometimes you just gotta say things out loud, like, okay, I'm ready, but I don't even know where to get this. Like, if you want this in my life, you got to make it easy for me, right? Living in flow, like it's just bring it in. So the same week, I walked into randomly, I was visiting my sister in Oregon. They had just decriminalized there. I'd walked into an herbal shop looking for lion's mane, trying to work on my memory, and I knew I'd learned a lot about mushrooms at that point, all the different mushrooms and the health benefits of them. And the men who owned that shop started talking about psilocybin and how they'd just helped a firefighter who had come in, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, wait, they have some here." Not maybe not here, but like maybe I could get some, or I don't even know what that would look like. And how do you ask someone for something that's a substance, one illegal, whatever? But I got courage. And a little bit after cultivating a relationship with them, I asked. And in that same week, my brother, who lives like 45 minutes from me, I started to just say out loud, I started to speak it into existence. I'm like, I think I need to be a medicine woman. I don't know anything about this. I don't know why this keeps coming to me, but I think I need to understand this medicine. But first, I just need to know if I even, like, again, I think it's going to do something. The wisdom says it, but I don't know until I actually have an experience. And he's like, I got some in the freezer. You want to come down and get it? I was like, yes, I do. And then the gentleman out in Oregon was like, I'll send you some stuff. And so one of my first experiences was just home. My partner and I, it was a low dose, not microdose, more than a microdose. And we didn't really feel much at first. And it was probably, I mean, I'm not going to give an amount because it was just, I'll just say low-ish, and just a little shift of perception. And so we paired it with cannabis, and holy smokes, like I already knew all about cannabis at this point. Didn't start that till I was 38 years old, or have any experience with that. But the pairing of the two, and I haven't really done that very often since, but we literally became telepathic. It was the weirdest, wildest experience. And I said, okay, there's something here. I've got to understand this medicine more. What is this? What is it on its own? And then I just started working with it first on my own in different doses, very low and slow, building up. I didn't want to just jump into the deep end. And I could take really high doses of it and be completely like just pondering the universe, even in a more deeper way than I already have my whole life, which was super fascinating to me. And then after I felt like this was safe and effective, I could see some shifts happening in my life. I asked my sister, like, hey, you've been sober for a year and I think I might need to be a medicine woman. Can you be my guinea pig? Like, I know the therapeutic model. I just need to sit with someone to see if I even like doing it. Do I even want to sit with someone? And do I like this experience? And it was wonderful. And on the plane ride home from that experience from Oregon to California, where I live, the entire idea for running retreats came in. And it was just like the most obvious next step for me. I'd spent 25 years almost running summer camps, raising all the money, creating programming, creating community, creating spaces of vulnerability. And it was just like, Eva, all the modalities that you use to heal after your divorce, pair that with the medicine, watch what happens. Just watch what happens. And so I created the business, the website, all of it within like 24 hours of that idea. I didn't know if anyone would come and or if it would even take, but it took me like maybe 6 months to really launch it and put it into the world. First retreat was in January of 2022. 5 women chose in, and it was awesome. And so, 4 years later, 70 retreats later, 400 plus people later, I can tell you that this medicine works. It is a launching pad for people to get back into this embodied self, this like, who are we and what are we doing here and how do we do it better? I think that it is one of the ways that we can human better.
And I've been to your retreats, and they're very lovely, and the programming is tight. I'm sure you've made adjustments along the way, but all those initial modalities that you were trying on, the cold plunge and the breath work and the meditation, like all of those are part of the retreat. So I want to know kind of like who is your not necessarily ideal client because it's really who shows
Yeah.
up. Who shows up to Flow Life retreats typically?
Yeah, I had no idea who was going to come at first, right? I mean, how do you know? How do you know who's going to watch your podcast? How do you know who you're going to resonate with? You just be authentic, put it into the world and see what happens. And what I found that first retreat and really even subsequently, I had two burned out nurses coming out of COVID. I had a therapist who was super interested, who'd like been doing her work forever and was like, I don't know, I can't get people to shift either, like sitting in therapy. Maybe there's something here. I had a massage therapist from Iowa. It was like women mid 30s to 50s, kind of this life transition of what now, what's next for me, kind of coming out of the 9 to 5. This is what society has said. I've checked all the boxes. I've been married. I've had kids. I'm divorced. I've dealt with grief. And they're just ready for something different. They were really ready to shift, and that's been the bulk of who we've served is that kind of mid 30 range when people start to question things, all the way to, I mean, the oldest person I've sat with is 80, but mostly like mid 60s down to mid 30s. I've sat with younger people also, early 20s, but isn't necessarily our demographic. But I mean, the benefit, it benefits everyone, I think, whoever feels called to it, of course. But that tends to be, and now I just started out with women's retreats because I wasn't sure, like, how are men going to be on this medicine and can I handle it? Even though I have 5 boys, I wasn't sure. And then it took me a year of running those retreats before I had our first men's retreat. And people are people. We do all the same programming, whether it's a man or a woman. We all need to move through stuff. And the medicine teaches us, and the medicine and you do the work. We just keep the vessel safe, the nervous system regulated, help you through the experience. It really isn't, a lot of people think it's going to be so much more than it is. I tell people, I'm just here to introduce you. I'm just here to like hold the space so you can build a relationship with this, so you can see it's not scary. It's not what people tell you it is or what you were programmed to believe as a kid. If you're anything like me, thinking you're going to see monsters, you're going to go run out into the road and get hit by a car. I mean, it's just not like that at all. And people realize, like, oh my gosh, this is safer than alcohol. This is safer than a lot of the things out there that are a lot of the medications that people can't even get off of. Some of these antidepressants, they can't even wean off of it because it just sends them their body into crazy reactions. And here's this medicine from the freaking earth that knows how to connect with our brain so perfectly, that reads you, that has an intelligence, that has recycled everything since the beginning, that knows how to break things down that you can't take too much of, you're not going to become addicted to. It's not like it's some beautiful, wonderful journey most of the time. It's hard. And so you don't want to just keep coming back to it day after day, week after week. I mean, people spend months integrating in an experience. And so there's an intelligence to it. I even wrote down in my last journey, legal like lettuce. That's what an attorney had said. And then what came to me was it'll regulate itself. Like, it's so smart, it will regulate itself. We don't need to put all these parameters around how we sit with it, who gets to serve it, blah, 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 how you have to do it. Like, it'll regulate itself. Just let it be free and it'll figure itself out. We will figure out how to use it in a way that isn't so gate kept and scary for people. So, yeah.
would
It's my
almost
friend.
counter that the bad part about it is that there is greed involved. So people are trying to patent it or create products and constructs or service centers that are very expensive. So I would say yes, the medicine healing the people, absolutely, but in the regulation of it is where the ugliness is coming in, the greed.
Yes, just let people have access to it. They will figure out how to use it. They will watch these videos. They will read the books. Most people aren't just going to randomly just take something they don't know. You're exactly right. All the ways that people want to capitalize on it, all the things, like all the precautions. And I get it. I understand that they're okay. We live in a very regulated world and we want everything to be safe or whatever. But do we really? Because you can just go buy a handle of vodka down the street, drink all you want, and like what benefit is that? The crazy thing is it got put in this black box of Schedule 1, right? Highly addictive and no medical benefits. Yet it did not, it was proven guilty before it even got a chance. There's no evidence around that. And so yet it stays in this black box because no one at the time really cared to argue it. And now with all the craziness and the corruption, really, and lack of information in our systems, of course, they don't want this thing to be legal like lettuce because people would be regulated, because people would then start using their gifts for good, because people would co collaborate together. People wouldn't be in competition. It wouldn't be about greed and power. It wouldn't be about living in shame and guilt and fear and using that to manipulate people and to keep people in these traumas of or these cycles of trauma lifetime after lifetime. It just feels like I get why y'all don't want to just let people have access to it, because humanity will evolve. It just will, in such a beautiful way. I've seen how it's helped so many individuals, and then when they shift, it's a ripple. Their families start to shift. They start showing up differently in their professions, in their community. There's more compassion, more grace. Paul Stamets says it just makes you nicer. I believe that 100%.
And it
And
makes you
so,
think for
yeah.
yourself.
Say that one more time.
It makes you think, like think, and not just go with the program. You start questioning, that doesn't seem right. Like, and if you heal and you don't need the pharmaceuticals anymore, then those companies, they don't want you to heal, right? They want you to be on an SSRI for your whole life. So tell me, in your retreats, and I've been to a few, one thing I want to say is a lot of your women's retreats led to the men partners being there, I've noticed as
Yeah.
well. Because I've
Yeah,
been to
couples
a
coming
men's retreat.
together. I think it's so beautiful when couples come and do that work together, because, and really it's really vital for a relationship, because if you have one person, okay, you're really one, but you're two. And if you have one person who's on this healing journey, who starts showing up differently, I'll tell people you have now shifted, but you are going back to an environment that is the same. So if you have a partner who's still stuck in their own cycles of pain and trauma, and you've got this person who's learning new ways of showing up, sometimes it can positively or negatively impact that relationship, because that person either comes along for the journey at their own pace or they don't. And there's just like this divide that can happen. So when couples come together, whether it's back to back, right? The woman will come to the women's retreat, the men to the men's retreat, and then they do integration together. I've seen that. I've seen where couples will sit with the medicine and have the music in between them, and they're just in their own journeys, but they're together in the same space. I've seen where they'll be in the same house together, but one person's over there, one person's over here, but they get to come back and really share. So there's a lot of beauty in how this medicine can bring couples closer together and help them to work through a lot of the stuff that they've just haven't had the means or wisdom or knowledge on how to do that. And when you have a more regulated nervous system, and you're able to stay calm and you can have tough conversations, there's a lot of healing that can happen.
Yes, definitely. What's kind of the flow of the retreat? And I want to also say it's very gentle. It's not like you're not going to boot camp for something. I mean, the medicine can be a little bit of a boot camp, but the rest of it is so supportive, so healing. You're doing it in community, and all the modalities support the whole weekend or 4 days or whatever. So, tell me a little bit of the flow of the retreat and anything else you want to share about the retreat.
Yeah, I think it's a constant evolution, constantly, because I mean, we're always learning. So how it started is definitely different than how it is. When I started, I would just dose people up 4 or 5 grams because that's a hero's dose and that's what we're supposed to do, right? Oh my gosh. I mean, it was definitely a training ground that I would not recommend for people to do because those higher doses, sometimes you're taking someone who's never perceived the world differently, and now you're putting them into this altered state. It's very hard to hold for some people. What I've noticed, some people, very few, but some will dissociate. It's a really hard space for those people to be in, and it's hard to hold that space for people. So the approach on the medicine side is always low and slow. It's always a choice. It's slow titrating up. I tell people 1 foot here, 1 foot there. It's being able to really drop in, go commune, go learn, go explore, and then you're able to pull yourself out, drink water, go to the bathroom, go outside, switch it up. Prior to that, it's always about like preparing them for the journey. So we might do a low dose on one night, the night before, pair that with some breath work or meditation. We'll do activities sometimes where we talk about things like Ho'oponopono, the Hawaiian forgiveness prayer to bring things back into balance. I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, I love you. So they have some tools to go into the journey with if there are some things there that might be challenging to sit with. We'll talk about Dr. Emoto and the properties of water and how even just drinking this tea, taking in this, having an intention, what is that about? The following day, the day of the journey day, the first full day being at the retreat, there's a meditation, there's breath work, there's or some kind of somatic work, there's cold plunging, lots of benefits to around all those things just in and of themselves, but also sometimes all you have is your breath, and so getting people to really connect to intentional breathing to help regulate is really important. And then spending the day with the medicine and journeying, where there's no wrong or right way to do it. I mean, I think it's so funny. There was a business that was, maybe there still are, trying to patent like eye shades and music. Like we're going to be the ones who own the patent on that. You sit behind eye shades and you listen to music. I mean, it's
Low
so
hanging fruit.
yeah, it's like, oh my goodness. And also, I tell people there's no wrong or right way to do this. Like, sure, they say the therapeutic model, you get the most neuroplasticity is when you're just dropped into that meditative state with it. But for some people, they want to sit out and they want to be in nature and they don't want to listen to music. For some people, they need to talk. There's the purging of talking or crying or actually throwing up, even though it doesn't happen all that much when you don't throw people into the deep end of the pool. But you just, everyone's different in how they process their experience, and just creating space and room and opportunities for all of that to happen. Again, this is not a light switch. You don't wake up the next day and like, oh my gosh, everything's better. My life has really figured itself out. It's this unfolding that happens, and having a whole day, the next whole day on integration. Really, what does that look like? So whether it's through art, through movement, meditation, actual planning, actual like sit down, like what is a tangible thing? What is a tangible belief or a tangible action that you can take over the next 21, 30 days when you have that neuroplasticity? How are you going to start showing up differently in your life? What pieces of the pie are working well, and what needs a little bit of focus? You do have this window where you can really take advantage. You want to be more creative, sit in activities that promote creativity. It's like branches of a tree that have all been snipped off, and now the medicine has lit it all up. And you get to now be intentional around which branches are going to grow and how you're going to move through life. And so, spending a day where you get to just rest, it's also a lot on the body to sit with all of that. And so, you need a day to just like, oh, okay, whew, what was that? And then the final day, we have a final meditation, a takeaway. They write a letter to themselves that I mail a year later. And then they're on their way. And then we have ongoing integration. That's part of it forever, as long as you want to be a part of it. We have a nurse who leads that, a good friend of mine, and really just opportunities for a community to stay connected, to stay together. I think most people take something away, and I'll tell them it may not even be the medicine. You might go home and buy a cold plunge because you found that to be the thing that has been really beneficial for you. You might go home and step into art and creativity more. You might decide breath work. Oh my gosh, I had no idea that our bodies can release DMT just from breathing. We can have our own psychedelic experiences through breath. You don't have to put anything in your body. You are the medicine. But sometimes it's just so blocked. The medicine can help take down that wall so you can realize that you are the medicine and that everything you need to heal is right here. It's just hard for people to get to sometimes, and that's where I think these various psychedelics can really help us.
Yeah, I think with the psychedelics, it creates a muscle memory almost. Your brain can get to that point later, or with less lower doses, or even microdosing could become something people take away
Ex-
from that.
exactly. Yeah, I sat with a very low dose, what would for some people be considered a microdose, and I paired it with a sound experience that was amazing. I mean, just like the most amazing sound experience. I had a full experience. I was not prepared or expecting that because, again, the more you work with it, right, the less you need. The medicine does not want you to be reliant on it. It's not how it works. Even with microdosing, people wean themselves off of it. I had a woman who was on antidepressants for, she's in her 40s, and since she was like 14 years old, had tried coming off twice and became suicidal coming off that medicine. At the retreat, she, even though you can, there's studies out there that show you compare an SSRI with psilocybin, that it's safe. Not all psychedelics are like that. You just might need to take more. And it was like, no matter how much more, it was not going to happen for her. And there was like this sadness. So she had to wean off the SSRI that she was on, work with the medicine, and she now wasn't afraid of it. She knew she could work with it on her own, and maybe with her partner or someone more local. And then went to microdosing, and after a year, and she said 90% of it was integration, so working with a therapist who understood psychedelic integration. She's not on anything anymore, and she feels great. She doesn't even sit with the medicine.
I
And I
don't know
think
this
that's,
person.
you might.
Was she from the Oregon, one of the Oregon retreats last year?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, beautiful.
Yeah. She's doing so good.
Yeah,
So, I mean, do you know like how happy that makes me to watch someone like come to your retreat and still not be able to get what they want out of it? Like I just want to be a light switch for everyone, right? And to be like, "Oh, I'm so sorry," but also don't give up. Don't give up. Don't give up. And it was like enough. Like she could see hope. She could see possibility. And it took her a year of doing the work, but she's able to now be totally free of all of it. And maybe, in a couple months, 6 months, whatever, life comes up again, and she'll say, okay, yeah, I'll sit with the medicine again. But it's, you have this tool in your back pocket if you need it. And that's the beauty of it. And maybe that's why all the companies don't want us to have it, because there's not a lot of money in it when you realize it's not something that you need to use every day, and it doesn't even want you to.
there's no money in it for the companies or the pharma. It's actually less money because they can't say more therapy and more drugs. So, um, a couple of things you didn't mention that I know as part of your retreat. You said sound, but you didn't mention it as part of your retreat. You and Lori, who's your facilitating partner,
Yeah,
do sound, a
yeah.
lot of sound.
Yeah, sound healing's huge. That's definitely a huge modality that I think, again, going back to the whole water, Dr. Emoto, all the others who are doing studies around water, just the properties. I mean, we're basically water, and the frequency of sound and the way that changes things up in your body. I think sound baths are enormous. I mean, just find a sound bath in your community. If you don't even know what I'm talking about, if that word is weird to you, or words, go try it. Go see how you feel. Yeah, sound, breath, meditation, all those are just such miraculous things. I mean, there's a somatic work, any kind of movement, yoga. Was it Key John? What's it called? Yeah,
Yeah.
this one where you like, yeah, that one, like that kind of movement, this up down like energy movement, you know? There's so many ways that we can move our body. We need to move out, like somatic hip releases, doing things like that is super beneficial. So there's lots of
Nature.
ways to move the energy, and sound is one of them.
Yeah, nature, getting out in nature. I know that's a big part of your retreats too. You always find
Huge.
places where we can get out into the trees or at least look at them.
Yeah,
With
no,
the
I think nature
fire.
does a lot of the healing for us.
And then the last thing, and I think that's it's what helped that girl we're talking about is community. That there's witnessing and there's healing done in community, which I think your retreats do very beautifully. Is creating that container. You're not just going. You go in with a bunch of strangers, but by the time you're dropping into the medicine, you kind of know each other. And by the time you're through integration, you leave as friends. I mean, for the most.
Yeah, I mean, I think that I saw that in my camps. You know, I brought total strangers together, kids from a farm in Nebraska to the toughest communities in East St. Louis and Chicago. And these kids were buddies. They were brothers and sisters by the end. I mean, we're all just people. We're all the same. We all know shame. We all know guilt. We all know fear. We all know anger. The story in which it comes in might be different, but we all know joy. We all know bliss. We all know love, passion, connection. We're meant to connect. We are designed to connect. So, yes, you can do this medicine one on one. You can sit with a therapist. But we've even hosted our retreats and we take the medicine out. And I have retreats where we don't do any medicine at all. And I wasn't sure, like, is it going to be as impactful for people? Equally impactful. Taking all these modalities, taking the medicine out, equally impactful for them because community is healing. Vulnerability in community. I'll say it's not just community, it's not just being together, but it's being honest about who you are, about your story, not letting your story sit in shame and guilt because that's what makes us sick is we think who's going to love me if they know I did blah, blah, blah? Who's going to love me if they know this happened to me in my life? We have so much fear around letting people see us and know us and love us. And there's something so healing about someone saying, here's my story, being so afraid to share whatever it is because it's sat in the dark for so long and having everyone like, okay, love you anyway. And they're like, "Oh my gosh, really?" Yes, yes. Because that's the only way we're gonna heal this collective is we just have to be able to forgive and have grace for everyone, for their story, for all the darkness, all of it. And that I think is where we're headed. I think there's so much darkness being revealed right now, maybe more so. People are waking up to how bad this world really is right now, how much corruption and yuck there is. And there needs to be so much grace, so much forgiveness and grace. And even in those places and for those people and for those choices, because there's a series of things that have happened to that person, that led to a lot of those choices. And if it's just burn them at the stake, I just think that perpetuates the trauma that we've been living in. And I don't think that's our future. I think our future is truly redefining love, truly what is love. And it's not conditional. And I think that's the next wave of where we're headed so we can evolve out of the black hole that we've been living in for so long.
And it resonates, or if it resonates with people biblically, it feels very much like Jesus, cast the first stone sort of a thing. Like none of us are free from our shadows or the things that we've done. We're all just human here figuring it out, and we're always doing the best we can.
Yeah,
Really, we're getting
especially with what
better,
we
right?
know at the time. Yeah, exactly. So have grace for yourself. I mean, we're like literally based on what you know, based on your footsteps, on your every single breath you have taken, everything you have experienced. I can barely understand my own life and figure it out. Who am I to have judgment around anyone else's? I mean, we just need to give an offer and hold space for all of it. And I think that's going to be so hard for people because people like to compare their stories. That's not as bad as mine. Sometimes it makes them feel better. Wow, 6 kids. I only have two. Thank God I don't have six. People would look at us at church and think like, oh, at least I'm not the pains, I don't have all that. But people do that with their own trauma. Like they'll compare, oh, I only have little t traumas. It's nothing compared to what you've gone through. I'm like, trauma is trauma. Like yours is valuable also. You don't get brownie points for having more or less comparing. Like let it all go. Let it all go. Transform it, transmute it, see it through a new lens. Ultimately, that's all we get to do is change our perspective of our story. What happened happened, but what's the lesson in it? What's the value in it? How can we not trip over that same stone again, fall into that same hole again? How do we take a different path? And sometimes you will mess up. You will go down that hole again. Okay, oh my gosh, oh, right?
Good question.
Recognizing your own patterns and being
Good
able to move
question
beyond them.
to follow that is, so what? Now what? And then like go,
Yes.
right?
Wait, I love that. I'm writing that down. So what? Now
So
what? Like
what? Now
literally,
what?
that's so good. Really writing it down.
I want to talk about
Yes.
some of your other stuff. So you do the
Yeah.
non-medicine retreats. I saw you have something in Joshua Tree. What's that? I know you did camp. Are you going to do adult camp again? And then I know you do one-on-one, all that stuff. So share a little bit about what else you have. You want to talk about your books or not? Just
Yeah.
before we close out, I want to also make sure people know how to get a hold of you. But talk about
I love it. Yeah. So the Joshua Tree retreat is like, I go to Colorado where it's decriminalized and where there's a path to be able to use it safer again, because I have 6 kids and, trying to
orange is not
do
your
it
color.
the best I can, yeah. Do it the best I can. But Joshua Tree is really focused more on and just trying to come up with different ways of like how can I redefine a retreat. That Integratron is where I had that crazy sound experience. George Van Tassel built. Was like directed by aliens, to build a time machine, is what he said. Even like the placement of this thing,
Say the word
using
again.
like Nikola Integratron. It's in
Integral.
Joshua Tree. Have you?
People can Google that.
Uh-huh.
It's a strange little thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Integratron. Yeah, it's like this little white building in the middle of the desert, and they do sound baths in there, and it's there's something going on, right? There is something going on there. That experience needs some integration. And so it's really about closing the year out and how do you really create more flow for the next year. So I just, whipped up an idea like, let's just incorporate some of these modalities, but also community, and then really focusing on joy, on play, on fun. So many of the retreats can feel so heavy sometimes when you're just dealing with such big topics. So how do we tap back into that childlike wonder and that creativity? So that's what that is. But yes, talking about play and fun and joy. We're going to be hosting a camp in May in Colorado, and it's an adult summer camp. I mean, it's still spring camp, but how do we tap back into all of that play and fun? It's not just reserved for you when you were 10, 12, 13 years old. We're meant to play and have fun. So yeah, there's that opportunity. I do have some books out there that I still think are really good and have really good messages in them. One's called The Flow Life Funnel, one's called The Magic in Flow. And it's just truly, how do you live in flow? How do we as human beings flow like everything else in nature? How do we move through stuff? How do we choose profession, a doingness that is in alignment with who we actually are and not what just an education system says that has value? So there's that. I do sit one-on-one with people with journeys also. This next kind of season of my life, I see this little transition happening where I'm teaching more and more people how to host retreats without medicine. How can I help others take the wisdom that I've learned in hosting retreats and camps for, now almost 30 years? How can I teach other people how to create that kind of experience for people, whether it's a circle, one night, once a week, or a whole blown out retreat or summer camp? Like, how can I impart that wisdom for others? So teaching people how to do that. And I love, 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 love hosting breath work and guiding meditation. And I have these ideas of sitting with a lot of people, like 100, 200, 300, 400, with live music. I mean, everything I use is recorded, it's all just these different artists, and leading breath work over someone like Will Evans or Trevor Hall. People are so moved by it. Can you imagine if they were playing live and I'm guiding breathwork and meditation over their music? There's something there that I feel like I'm going to tap more into over this next year, creating more, call them festivals, but kind of retreat. Like maybe you don't spend the night, you show up at 9 in the morning, you leave at 9 at night, and there's these opportunities to connect back in where you realize you are the medicine, and how music and breath and meditation and somatic work and sound can really connect us with some workshops. So I've got some ideas. March 21st is going to be one of them here in LA that I'm going to be hosting. Beautiful giant property that I've rented where I can just see all of these yoga mats laid out and overlooking LA. So, I'm constantly in evolution myself. I don't know. I never thought I'd be here 5 years ago, so I can't begin to predict what 5 years from now will look like. I'm just listening to my intuition, listening to what makes my heart flutter, sending a text to Will Evans, like, or a message. Hey, I have this idea. Do you think you'd want to take I could literally put a whole playlist together of just your songs and lead breath work. But like, what if you did it live? And he's like, okay, yeah, let's see if we can coordinate something next year. Like, okay, okay, this is going to happen. That like childlike anticipation and excitement, that's what we're meant to feel in life. And when things start to feel kind of stagnant and like, okay, here I am, been here, done that, it's time to switch it up. That's when life is like, come on, keep it novel, keep it interesting. And so who knows? I mean, those are some of the things I'm working on, but I'm going to keep going down that path. I'm on Insight Timer. I'm being a little bit more committed to that over the last year, leading guided meditations live in the mornings, breath work. It's hard to do breath work online, but I'm doing my best there. So I'm just going to keep cultivating my own gifts and the things that I like, and then finding new ways to do it. I'm a huge advocate for psilocybin. Will I always run psilocybin retreats? I don't know, but like a documentary, some kind of truth, some kind of like, get these people's stories out, reduce the stigma. I sat with HIV and AIDS for 20 plus years, so much stigma around that. I understand stigma. So combating the stigma around it so more states can decriminalize or legalize, or we can just freaking get it out of the Schedule 1. If I can help that movement, I'm here for it because I believe in it 100%. I mean, I will have full conversations about it with my kids right there because there's no shame in it. There is no fear or guilt. It's just the truth. I see what this medicine does. So continuing to be an advocate for that in whatever capacity, I'm here for that. Yeah. And just, I feel like, we got to heal, whatever that even means. Let's get ourselves regulated. And then it's time to create systems that actually evolve humanity in a positive way. So that's my mission. And I'm here to co-collaborate with anyone who's in alignment with that. And it makes life interesting. And even if, who knows what the heck happens after all of this, but I just want to get to that last breath and be like, well done.
Yeah.
And I feel like every day I'm not even heading, there's nothing else to check. If it was today, I'd be like, all right, good job, Eva. You did good. You really put your heart and soul into serving people in your life. And it feels really good to be able to say that for me. I think that's ultimately who and what we are. We are here to bring our gifts, use our essence, and fill a need in the world that also fills us up. That's it. And have fun along the way doing it.
And I do want to say you are a beautiful guide of meditation. I don't know where you channel the things you say from, but like if you can find her an Insight Timer, I noticed on your website, Flow Life Retreat with an S or no?
No S, Flow
No S.
Life Retreat, singular. Yeah.
FlowLifeRetreat.com. There's some recorded meditations on there as well, I saw.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
then breath work as well. Beautiful breath work guide or
Hey, it's only
facilitator.
getting better,
Yeah.
honestly. Because even breath work, let me just finish with this. There's so much breath work that I've seen out there where it's like everyone's screaming and crying, and it's just like throwing people into the deep end of the pool with a big dose of medicine. Breath work can be fun. It can be gentle. It can be it doesn't have to be so traumatic for people, you know? It's not like it doesn't need to be an exorcism every single time. I want people to come back to breath work. I don't want you to be like, I am never doing that again. That was what the heck? And
I agree.
I mean, that's like that's big and showy. That's very like, let me show you what I can get people to
Masculine.
do. Like, yeah, like, nah, come on. Let's have fun with it. Let's like almost like dancing and moving and like, or just very meditative and thoughtful and that simple breathing in, feeling it all the way in, all the way out, allowing your mind to connect to creativity that lives right here. It's literally our consciousness and creativity is all right around us. And when we just calm things down, the ideas come in, the inspiration comes in, and then those ideas won't leave you alone. And if you have the courage to take the step, you can create beautiful things. And isn't that we're all creators every single moment of every day? And to be intentional around it, to have fun with it, makes life worth living.
Absolutely. I think that's a beautiful note to end on. Thank you so much for being here. You've dropped so much wisdom. So people can go to your website and get in touch with you that way, or should they find you on Instagram? What's the best way?
Yeah, I mean, my website, I've got a couple, flowliferetreat.com or Eva Payne, PAYNE.com. My Instagram, my public one is Miss MS Eva Payne. I'm more on my stories there than like in the feed, but it's a great way. You can find me there too. I have a YouTube channel called Ideas to Human Better. Or, it's also on Spotify and everywhere. I just kind of put things on there when I feel inspired. So it's not like every week there's a new episode, but there's some guided meditations there, some great interviews. Yeah.
Thank you so
Thank
much
you.
for your energy today, which is how you always show up anyway, but so grateful to call you my friend. I love you.
Likewise. And I appreciate you. I appreciate the work that you're doing in this world, the way that you show up, and for stepping into this, for creating something that is fun for you, that's exciting.
All right, sister, I love you.
Much love.
You have been listening to A Call to Healing. I hope Eva's story resonated with your own journey. To learn about her retreats and not medicine gatherings, visit flowliferetreat.com or connect with her on Instagram at Miss Eva Payne, Payne. This podcast is supported by Cenevita, a platform helping practitioners spend more time in service and less time in the back office. I am Melanie McDaniel, and until next time, thank you for being here.